All right, so we're going to be going over Shuhei. First thing I want to make note of is that the reason why I consider him a low tier is because he has to work to get to where he's like competing with the other characters as far as damage goes, and doesn't have like any like really any like broken aspects about him. But he does play. He does have like a technical approach of play. Um, and so one of those mechanics, I mean, like he has to work to get to that uh, the damage where he can like compete with others would be the fear gauge mechanic. So you'll see the gauge at the bottom. Like if I awaken right now, you'll see the red gauge would go up, and as that fear gauge builds, his he does more damage. So you see the exclusive ability here, fear, right? So as you accumulate fear, when awakenings occur or either fighter's Kampaku is destroyed, the higher the fear, the more damage he deals to opponents, and some of his actions change. So that's how his fear mechanic works. One thing to keep in mind, though, is if you're fighting like final Zangetsu Ichigo, you're going to be in for a very rough time because that Ichigo doesn't go awakening, right? He doesn't like it's like he doesn't help you build up your fear gauge. So it's going to be really all up to you. So it's going to take a little bit longer for you to do that. I mean, obviously, if he's getting your health down, um, and he's taking away some of your health bars, then that will build up your fear gauge. But it's going to be a long day. So just take note that if you're up against a final Zangetsu Ichigo, you're going to have to play a perfect game. Like you don't have room for mistakes because that's just it's just a bad matchup for you. Other things in his toolkit, for example, is his tilt skill, right? His tilt triangle. This little dash forward, the dash he does, he's invulnerable to projectile type attacks, right? So he can like slide through the projectile and then like use that to kind of way to zone in. So it's really good to do it around this range, right? To go in. Um, Also keep in mind though, if the initial, like if the slide hits the enemy at point blank, then they will be able to dodge the slash at the end. So for example, he was able to block there, right? But if the initial doesn't hit, see, he wasn't able to block. So keep that in mind. What that means is if your opponent knows that, then instead of blocking, what they'll do is they probably would do a flash step, right? And then do a counter attack. Or they might try to grab, right? They might try to hit R1 on you. Or they'll just simply block and then punish. So just keep that in mind as well. Um, his circle here, his special, actually has pretty decent tracking. Like I've had it where I hit circle, but then they flash step, and then Shuhei would like do a complete 180. So also, it does racy damage even if they're blocked. Not a lot, but it does do some racy damage even on guard. And obviously, as you awaken and your fear gauge builds up, it'll do more hits, it'll do more damage, and also do more damage to your opponent's, which you can't see because the guard health is infinite. It'll do more damage to your guard gauge. All right. So his hollow number 31 is L2 triangle. is a projectile, and so you could use it as a finisher. You can use it as like a keep out tool. You can use it to stop your opponent's approach. I want to show that example, but I might have to show maybe that later in the video. But what I mean, like some characters, they have specials where they send something out, whether that's like I'll have to show that. But the point is though, you can stop approaches, right? You can give yourself time to get out the way, or you can stop your opponent's approach, so you're not just being pinned down, but you can stop it and then make a different a play on your own. So there's multiple uses to this. Obviously, in awakening state, it will do more damage. As the fairy gauge goes up, it will do more damage. It will also detonate on impact. And like I said, you can use it as a finisher, right? You can do stuff like that. Same way with your special, but that's mainly after like grabs and stuff like that. So like you can't special after your triangle or after your square. See what I'm saying? So things like that. As far as what else? Yeah, I would suggest too with Shuhei, since his damage in the beginning is low, it might be better for you to completely deplete your opponent's health bar or your opponent's reishi, so that way you can at least get the 2 stock of their lives off instead of just the 1. You'll see in my videos I don't do that, but it probably would, you know, obviously be better for you just to pump out as much damage as you can, since he starts off very slow anyway as far as his damage goes. His hitbox, his square, the hitbox to me isn't that great, especially compared to characters like Sangetsu Ichigo. His hitbox doesn't even make sense. Aizen has a very good hitbox, and there's some other characters that have very good hitboxes on their square and triangle. One pro tip is this map is really good because you see these squares. You can use the squares to like measure when the opponent is going to be in your range or not, right? So if you pick this map like and you're doing PvP and you see that your opponent gets within like 2 squares or something like that, you know, okay, they're in attack range, and then you can go for a hit. So that's just like a little tip there as far as this stage goes, or when you're trying to measure what your opponent's range is looking like. I mean, what your range is looking like. You know what I'm saying? Now his triangle though has very good range on it. You know, he has some decent forward momentum on it. The hitbox is pretty good, so sometimes you can. You see, I was like almost 3 squares away. See that? Yeah, I'm like, yeah. So sometimes you can catch your opponent by surprise there by like being around this range and letting off a triangle and connecting, and then going into, you know, your full heavy combo string there, your full triangle, right? Things like that. As far as combos goes, you have many different options. So again, you could do your basic there. You could do open up with your light into your heavy and get splashed up, right? You could do full heavy. I'm sorry, I didn't do that. Oh, let me wait for him to. Full heavy into reverse action. I didn't mean to do that, but into another full heavy, right? You could also do open up with triangle, square, then finish with heavy. All right, you can do a dash in into light, into heavy. Okay, you can do dash in heavy and then pause and come stand back up. All right. Many different options. Oh, I forgot to mention his warrior pose is like a counter, right? Or counter attack or counter strike or whatever you want to call it. So that works on like against hits, against projectiles. He'll teleport over to the opponent. Depending on the timing of that, they might be able to block if you counter a projectile, like depending on the timing of you teleporting to him, to your opponent. But yeah, the startup is pretty good on this. Pretty decent to use, like if you think you're gonna, let's say, I'm trying to get him to block. Right, and then maybe after your combo string, or if you find yourself vulnerable, going into that, right? So there's some options there. If you see your opponent flash step to you, you can also use that opportunity to go into a warrior's pose. Again, if you see a projectile coming, you can go into a warrior's pose if you want to. In awakening, and when your fear gauge is up, this thing does a ton of damage. So a well-timed warrior pose can really put your opponent in a bad spot. So keep that in mind. He does that move does a ton of damage when your fear gauge is up. So yeah, so as far as your combo, like your just regular combo string goes, those are your options as far as doing things like that and like that. But what I do is a little bit differently, right? I do a ton of different resets. Like if you watch my gameplay with him, I do like different mix-ups, and I stagger my combo string. So for example, sometimes I will do, let me see, how can I, sometimes I'll do something like this, right? I might do full triangle, finish it with that. I'll dive in, he'll block that. I'll go into R1. I might do that, do it again. Okay. So I will constantly rotate different steps, right? So again, I'll do that. I'll just use this to dash in, R1 him. I might try to do that, walk back in, that, into another reversal, to a triangle, flash up. I'll zone back in, grab, circle again, and I'll just keep like looping. I'll keep looping different routes, right? Different routes, just constantly trying to reset, constantly trying to just catch my opponent. And I would just keep doing things like that over and over and over and over. So if you watch the gameplay, you'll see that. One of my favorite things I like to do is, usually at match start, I would immediately zone in and do that. And that usually gets opponents like 8 times out of 10, that always works. Like as soon as the match starts, I tilt in. And then I tilt in and I go straight into a R1. Every time. Right? So usually, even if they block, this R1 usually catches them even before they can punish me. So sometimes that works. Another time I do it is after they awaken, because when they awaken, the neutral resets. It brings you back to like here, right? It resets your positioning. So usually right after an opponent awakens or I awaken, I immediately do that again. So I'm always like, in certain situations, trying to play ahead of my opponent and just getting my combo route started. So that's one thing that I do there. So yeah, another, again, which I kind of already showed, but a very good loop is doing your special into R1. All right, that's a very tight window that the opponent has to either try to guard break himself out of it, so holding R1 to escape that loop, or trying to hit you to interrupt. So knowing this, sometimes I won't always just keep looping that because I think that's kind of lame anyway. So what I'll do is I might do one, right? And then I'll expect the opponent to be trying to guard break his way out. So I'm expecting him to hold R1 to escape. So now instead of doing another guard break by itself, I go straight into combo, which would be a counter strike, right? Or a strike back on the opponent. So I'll interrupt his grab that he's attempting to escape because he thinks I'm going to grab again, and instead I'll just go straight into a combo. Keep in mind too, you can reverse action, you know, there. You can reverse action on guard to save yourself. So like, see if I can get him to block. All right. So you can delay your reverse. Your opponent thinks that you're vulnerable, so they'll open up their guard. The reverse will interrupt them, and then now you just, I mean, that's a free combo starter for you. Same thing goes for if you find yourself vulnerable on guard or while doing guard pressure. I'm trying to get him to block. And then see that like that stagger. So if you delay your R2, they are usually, which I've caught a few opponents like this, they'll open up their guard, and then you can catch them with the R2, right? And then go into whatever. So you then go into like this, right? Or just setting yourself up for something else. So, right? If you're too far, then you may have to hold forward while you do your guard break. Keep in mind too, you do want to awaken as soon as you get it. Though, of course, your awaken can act as like a free substitution to get you out of stuff. But building up your fighting spirit as fast as you can is beneficial for Shuhei. So that's like doing your reverse actions, dealing damage, and of course taking damage builds up your fighting spirit too, but you don't want to do too much of taking damage. Trying to think, there was something else in the base form I wanted to talk about. Trying to remember what that was. What was it, man? All right, well, if I remember it, then I remember. But right now I'm going to do the awakening.
Those who don't fear the very sword they hold are not worthy of holding one. That's what I've been taught.
All right, so as you can see right down there at the bottom, the fear gauge has what, like three stocks on it. So it'll go to white, yellow, then red. So again, this is an example of the fear gauge building up. Now, these sites, so his combo string changes. So for example, now his triangle he has some range on it. If you're too close, it won't connect. So just keep that in mind. There's some other tech though with that, but I'll talk about that on a later video. One thing that I like to do is using the first hit of this triangle to check the opponent. So like checking dashes, checking approaches, catching him when he's not blocking, and either going straight into this, right? Or what I'll do is, if I'm not sure if I have the read on him, like if I can go into a full heavy combo like that, then what I'll do is I'll just do one triangle into R2. This is a very good check because if your opponent gets like complacent, like he gets I'm trying to find the word, like he gets like reckless with an approach or something, or not paying attention, and he's not aware of his health. This can be a quick way to end a match, right? I mean, if they don't know or is taking notice that they're getting close to 30% reishi, right? Or they're at 30% reishi and they're somewhere at this distance in the neutral and they're not really paying attention, or they do something reckless. That's game right there, right? I mean, that's a stock. So, um, yeah, this is a very good check. Same good. So another way I like to use this too is baiting your opponent, right? So for example, you can go straight from a dash into that first hit. So that, right? So sometimes what I like to do is if you do a little jab step, but if you hold backwards while doing it, you do like a little, see, like a little jab step, right? So sometimes I like to do that to either like bait my opponent out, or, you know, get them to like move, or get them to just not really know what I'm going to do next. And then I'll go from that into, well, a jab. Go on, jab step. A jab step into a triangle, you know, because he goes straight into it. See that, how you go straight from a jab step into a triangle? So sometimes I do things like that. Yeah, and obviously this is just his regular light, his regular square combo. So that's pretty much it for that. But yeah, really take advantage of that. Be careful though, if your opponent blocks and you do the full heavy, you will bring yourself into him, and then now you're vulnerable. So usually what I would do is, primarily I'm using this for checks. So I'm just doing one. Or I'm doing that, right? But I'm not doing the full heavy because I know it will bring me into him, and now I'm vulnerable, right? Of course, if you have the read and you think you got it, then sure, right? Go into the full thing, all right? So those are options that you have there. Other things you can do too, as far as the neutral goes, like let me see here, doing a dash step into, like, instead of going straight into your tilt for zoning, dashing in and then tilting, right? Or doing a jab step into a jab step into a dash into a tilt. Well, or that, but I didn't mean to do that. Right? Just different things you can do to mix your opponent up, right? So they think that you're going for a tilt, but really it was just a dash, but then you actually tilt after the dash, and so like it throws them off because you're constantly doing like just all these different routes into your setups. So yeah. And I wanted to do an example of something, but can I change the CPU to computer? I mean, not the computer, but to player 2? No, I can't. Bro, stop. I wanted to show an example of something I meant with stopping your opponent's approach, but I won't be able to do it in this video. But for example, this guy here, where is he at? Him. Yeah, this guy. I forgot which of his specials is the one where he sends his partner forward. I forgot her name. But he sends her forward, and sometimes you can use like your R2 triangle, your Hado, to stop that, right? Because that would hit her, get her out the way, and then you're not being pinned, so it frees you up to make a different move. So that's what I mean. Like you can use uh, Shuhei's Hado in different ways. So you don't have to always use it for a combo finisher, but you can use it to keep your opponent out. You can use it um, as a poking tool, depending. You can use it to stop approaches, to shut down your other opponent's special, their spiritual pressure move. That way you're not allowing yourself to be pinned. Um, things like that. Um, I hope that I didn't forget anything important. I don't have like a outline for this, so I'm kind of pretty much going off the dome. Um, but if I think of something again, I'll just add it on to here. But yeah, that's all I have.